An old baseball saying, a bloop and a blast.
Bloop and a blast.
Bloop and a blast. Big sexy, Luke Hughes.
Going back. This ball's back and gone in his first major league at bat. Luke Hughes hits a home run. What a moment for Luke Hughes. What a moment for Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Bloop and a Blast podcast. My name is Big Sexy. I'm the Bloop. His name is Luke Hughes, and he's here this week, mate. It's good to see you actually showed up. Hey?
I'm back. After a couple of weeks off. We had a nice wedding back in Perth with your co-host of the State League show. Bucks party into wedding was phenomenal 10 days. Thoroughly enjoyed it, as much as I did get stood up by you 2 Mondays ago for a podcast.
I'm not sure if that. I think I might have mentioned that on the episode with Tal. Yeah, I did stand you up, but I was at work, brother. I had to do my real job.
All you had to do was
paying the bills, man. Either's Australian baseball. Let's be real. Come on.
Hey, Hugh, as I'm sitting out the front of his house. Hey, Hughesy, I haven't left work yet. Oh, great.
I was deep in some work stuff, and I was like, I'll get this done. And then you're like, I'm here, and I'm like, God damn, why couldn't you be late one time? So that's my bad. I apologize. I did stand you up, but that's all right. We'll be better. Here.
I want better. Be better.
Yeah, that's for me. There it is.
We are back, and I'm excited to talk some baseball. It's been a couple of weeks, so I'm ready to dive into it, mate.
Also, as our listeners would be aware, we're dropping this early. We're dropping it early. I've made the executive decision. It's too crowded on a Thursday. There's 300 baseball podcasts out in the market now. The ABL's got their own. Every team has their own. So I thought, you know what? Stuff it. Let's go out on a Tuesday, give you something to listen to, and then you can listen to everyone else's podcast. There's so many of them now, which is really, really good. So there you go. That's why we're here on a Tuesday. That's why it's a little bit earlier, and then it breaks it up a bit. You know, you can go and listen to the State League show on a Friday when it drops. So Tuesdays and Fridays, new day, new us. It's all happening. Just means I got to do heaps of work on a Monday night, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. That's okay. You know.
I don't. I just go to bed.
You just log off and it's all over, isn't it? Yeah. That must be real nice. Yeah. Hey, let's quickly look back in what happened in round 4. We won't go too much into the weeds because there are other shows out there that you can watch, and that'll be good. But of course, as we know, or you may not, but Sydney Blue Sox came to Perth. And they showed up with their brooms. Yeah, they swept them. They swept the Perth Heat in 4 games. And, of course, Brisbane went to Adelaide. And it was a 2-2 split, which I don't know. It's been a bit splitty this season. I feel like teams are relatively balanced, obviously, except for, Sydney going on a 9-game winning streak over their last, 9 games. So that's pretty impressive. Didn't see them sweeping the Perth Heat, honestly, here, but here it is. And, so Brisbane goes away with a split there in Adelaide. Is what it is. They win a big game, take the 2nd seed. And if we do go over and have a look at those standings here, you've got Sydney way out in front, 12-3. Brisbane, 7-8, 5 games out from the top, but they are sitting in that 2nd spot. Adelaide, 6-8. And the Perth Heat, 4-10. I tell you what, it's a tough time to be a Perth Heat fan. The last few series, especially being at home, it has been harsh. But I do want to say this, and I was maybe mentioning this before we started recording, Luke. But I tell you what, when Sydney play your team, right? So I watched it this weekend with the Perth Heat. But when Sydney watch your team, it's like watching your team die by 1,000 paper cuts. I tell you what, it is hardcore. They get on base and then they'll draw a walk. They'll get 3-2, they'll draw a walk, and then they'll hit one. They might barrel the ball. They might not. They might get a little chingle. Doesn't matter. They might get guys on 1st and 2nd, bunt the guy over. It's just constantly there, and they're just doing it. And the other thing is, on the other side of the ball, Luke, the pitchers for Sydney, I think we had like a couple of guys go pretty much we didn't get into the bullpen until the 3rd game. I was like, oh, that's right. Cohen Wynn plays for Sydney. I've just been too busy seeing their starters. So hats off to Sydney. Good on you. Love you. But I tell you what, it's hard to watch when they're not your team.
It's Brook Night baseball. That's how he goes about it, right? We had that in Perth, slightly different team back in the day. He played that way in Adelaide. That's what he did. And, coaches understand it. The players get under the other team's skin. That's what they do, right? They just play a hard-nosed brand of baseball. But their whole team is set up by their pitching staff. And they had the ability. They went out and got 2 really good imports again that came back out to the ABL, and those guys are locking it down. They shut the Heat hitters down, and then hey, let's throw Alex Wells in there as well, who was the Helms Award winner last year and won every award, and that sets up a staff, right? When you've got that quality outing, they're going to go out there and throw 6 or 7 innings and turn the ball over to their bullpen. They're nasty, right? That's how you set your team up, by quality starting pitching, right? So it's no surprise that the Sydney Blue Sox find themselves running away with it already in what are we 4 series in.
Yeah. Heading into round 5, where, of course, if we look at it from a Perth Heat lens against Sydney, they've got to now go into their fortress as such. Go to Sydney and try and face them while they're on a 9-game winning streak. So that's going to be something. And I tell you what, maybe the Heat can pull out a series win here and save the season. That's what you got to be hoping if you're a Perth Heat fan.
Well, it does get to crunch time now, right? You start falling behind. Sydney going to run away with it, and they're going to finish on top. Everyone can see that. It's really a fight for that second playoff spot now between, Adelaide, Perth, and Brisbane. That's what it is. I think Adelaide, and I'll go through them in a little bit more in depth with what they have coming back in January, which they have substantial players coming back. There's a lot of good players, good pitchers coming back, and I guess it's kind of all set up for them when the Japanese players go back to the States. I'll touch base with them in a second. But for Perth, mate, they find themselves in a really tough position, right? They don't have any players coming in, unless they're not saying something, but they've got all their position play imports here. They played 7 of them in the lineup last week, which for me as a, huge Perth Heat fan and all that stuff, it's hard to watch, to be honest with you. And disappointing in saying that when you've got that amount of imports in the lineup where nobody in the crowd knows who they are. They're still getting to know these players, right? So, that's something that's, disappointing. And I'll be honest with that. I don't like seeing that. I've said this for 15 years, right? Like I want to see Australians play in the league. Yes, they do have some Australian pitchers. I understand that. But, unfortunately, as I just said about Sydney's staff is set up by their starting rotation, and that gets them deep in games and gives them a chance to win. If you dive into the numbers and see how many, runs they've given up, Heat scored a ton of runs. I'll give them that, right? They've scored a ton of runs, but they've given up a ton of runs too. Hence why they're not winning any ball games. So I think there's time, and I'm sure that we'll see a little bit of a different start in rotation this weekend. We'll probably see Was in the starting rotation. Have to see Was in the starting rotation.
Or except
yeah. They have to make a move and see if he can get the ball, get him deep in a game with, a quality outing to give him a chance to win a game there. But, the starting rotation for the Perth Heat really have to kind of settle down, step it up. If you look at their whip, and I actually went through and checked out, like, Singy, your co-host, when we talk about recruiting
loves whip
and stuff.
Loves whip.
Yeah, mate, that's what we talk about when we look at imports to come out to play locally in Australia. Like, I'm not too concerned about the ERA as much, or the strikeout numbers as much. It's like whip. Do they walk people? Do they give up many, hits? What does that really look like? And if you take a dive into the Perth Heat's whip, it's not good, right? Hence why they're giving up so many runs. They're walking too many guys, giving up way too many free passes. So they need to clean that up for sure. So I think Warwick, being the veteran guy that he is, he'll be able to solidify a starting spot in that rotation and get him deep in a game and hopefully give him a chance to win one of those games.
Absolutely. It also looks a little bit like if the bats fall behind, like if we fall behind, that's it. Like the bats can't seem to get it going. And I'd really hoped as a Perth Heat fan that we would see that this weekend. And I know coming into the series, there was the comparison on the ABL Instagram where it was like runs per game and Perth Heat were higher than Sydney. I get that. But it just feels it could be hit or miss. And it's a little bit like it's almost like little front runners in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's like, hey, they're either out in front from the get-go or they're not at all. So I don't know, just putting it out there. I don't know if you've paid as much close attention to it, but it's just something that I've sort of picked up. It doesn't feel like just very hit or miss on the bats for the Perth Heat.
Oh, look, they've scored runs, right? Like they went.
You think it's just the bullpen giving up the runs?
Look, obviously, I'll give credit to Sydney. They threw the ball really well against the Heat on the weekend, and So you have to give credit to the starting rotation to go deep in all those games, right? But in saying that, you've got to find a way to get runners on. You need to find a way to break up the rhythm. You need to find a way to do something. And unfortunately, it does fall on a couple of those hitters' shoulders to, bear the load of the offense. If you look at Hawley, for example, he didn't have a great weekend. He's frustrated at himself, I'm sure. He went into the weekend hitting 390, 400 and walked out of there hitting about 310. So, but that was all the hitters. That not many of them actually were able to have a solid series and I guess make an adjustment throughout the 4 games. So, that's not going to happen every weekend. The funny thing is they faced them all last week, so they get to see them for the second time in a week. Which, you've seen them now, what they have. You like to think that, they'll have some different game plans, try a few different things, maybe shake up the lineup a little bit to see what they can produce. But, I'd love to see Jess hit higher in the lineup, to be honest with you.
I agree.
I know they've, got him in the 9 hole. I'd, throw him up higher in the lineup and see what he can do, right? So, yeah, we'll see what Perry and the Heat have to offer this weekend, and they're hoping to bounce back and at least pick up a couple of games and break this streak from Sydney Blue Sox currently have going.
One other thing I do have to mention before we move on to my cool-looking hat here, but one thing I saw Saturday night was Radicek for Sydney, big lefty guy. He is strong. He is a big boy. He put one over the shed. Now, it might have come down on the back half of the shed, but I tell you what, off the bat, I was like, wowee, that might be one of the biggest ones that I've seen. I haven't been around as long as you, but I tell you what, at that park, holy Jesus, that was a big hit. He absolutely smoked one over centre field.
Yeah, Sydney had this guy back in the day called Reese Hoskins.
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Heard him, and I remember watching him take BP before a game in Sydney one day, and I was like, shit, this guy's good. He was in balls at Sydney that nobody hits balls to that part of the field and was getting him out, right? And I kind of see the similar type of player, like big, strong, offensive threat, right? So he's looking like a good player, man. Really good player.
Good pickup.
Very good pickup.
One other thing I do want to mention, of course, it was Team Spencer night. We had Rick on the podcast last week. It was really, really special. It was really, really cool, man. I tell you what, it was weird not having you here and having to do all the baseball talk on my own. I was like, I don't want to do this. But I spoke to Rick, and then I was like, I don't want to do the thing on my own and rah, rah, rah. But people have got to hear this because Rick's story was so sensational. So that was really, really awesome. Really, really special. We got to, I got to the field. I got to get myself a Team Spencer hat. Rick kept me one from the previous year. He had a spare one lying around. Might have been worn, but I didn't care. I paid for it. So I was really stoked. Got to have a really good yarn with him, man, and like just see everyone out there in Team Spencer gear and just. It was just such a good vibe. Hey, even with the heat going down like they did. But I tell you what, it was such a good vibe out there at the ballpark on Team Spencer night, man.
Rick and Ruth, they've been phenomenal over the years with their support within the playing group at the Perth Heat. And not only in the Perth Heat, all the teams that have come in and played for the Team Spencer Cup, right? And, he's always has the ability to put people like smiles on people's faces. He loves a chat. I'm sure you're aware of that last week. Man. But they've raised so much money for the foundation for spinal muscular atrophy, and obviously did quite a bit of stuff with them in the past. And it was it was unfortunate that I had a work commitment on that night. Wasn't able to join you, mate. But they continued to lead with the team with Spencer's name. And continue. I'm really happy to see that the game's still going on in the ABL. It's something that he's super passionate about, and same with Ruth as well. And yeah, mate, it'll continue on. And you see the smiley face. I see it in club ball over here in Melbourne. Aaron Whitefield still wears sweatbands from there, and you see Daryl George over here was a big supporter of it. Tolsey in Adelaide was a big supporter. All the guys, you see on the national team, you see, yellow sweatband with this Team Spencer logo on it. So, I'm glad that you had a chance to talk, mate, with him and be a part of that on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. It was really, really cool. Also, quick shout out to me new mate, Thomas Malloy. We're going to get him on the podcast. He's a huge Perth Heat fan. And you know Thomas as well. You've met him a few times. So that's pretty exciting. Let's move on. You wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about Adelaide. What have you got for me? Give me what you got. What do you want to tell me about Adelaide?
You know, you look at these clubs, right? And I just picked Adelaide tonight, right? And I'll dive deeper into maybe Sydney, next week, and dive deep into Brizzy the week after. But, for me, it's kind of, they're in somewhat of a holding pattern, if that makes sense. They've got a team now that they've put together that won't be the team that will essentially compete for a Claxton Shield come, January. And, if I look at the names and I went through, and they've done a great job of keeping their fans informed when the players are coming back. They did this before the season. We saw Mitchy Edwards float back into the lineup and had a great series with the bat and glove on the weekend. And, he was the first one to trickle back in. But, when these Japanese players do go back, they have a substantial amount of pitching coming back into the team, right? Now, I'm not sure if all of them are going to be available. I'm not sure if all of them are going to be back, but the numbers that they currently have, right, is this. You got Josh Hendrickson, all right, signed to come back in the second half. He had a great year this year. Huge pickup for them. Big, tall lefty out of WA. Probably a little bit disappointed that he didn't get to the Heat, but it's another story. Maybe they missed on that one. Mitchy Newborn, he'll be coming back to get ready, obviously, for the WBC. I'm sure that he'll float back in at some stage. There's no timeline on those two guys, but expecting, I think, Hendrickson to be back just after Christmas. Mitchy Newborn, obviously, probably a similar time, start of January. He needs to get ready too. Another WA guy, Blake Townsend. There's stuff written about that he's gone to do a velo program in the off season. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back. Team Australia pitcher right there as well. Danny McGrath. There was notes that he was injured. I'm not currently sure where he sits within, coming back, if he will be coming back. Another Team Australian left-handed pitcher. Lockie Wells.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
my brother.
He just signed in KBO, the Kiwan Heroes. If he's back in there, rolling out in January well.
So he comes back in January, 100%?
If they allow him to pitch, right? So, it's an interesting one. I think they might allow him to pitch before he goes to his spring training. Now, I'm not sure the dates of what that looks like, but I can't see them wanting to hold him back from it.
What about WBC?
That's another thing, right? Like, will they allow him to? I'm sure that conversation's had, but when you get the opportunity to go over to the KBO and be part of this, the extended roster, and he's essentially pitching this year, I guess, for a full-time spot somewhere next 2027, right?
Yeah,
so if he goes over there, pitches well in 2025 as part of this extended import roster, 2026 to therefore get to 2027 when he becomes back on the free agent market. And if he pitches well in 2026, who knows, he might get a full contract and make a hell of a lot more money, right?
Big boy money, yeah, okay.
Big boy money, right? So he's obviously doing well next year, but it's really the year after that he's kind of setting himself up for too, right? So, if they roll out, a Lockie Wells with a Mitchy Newborn, with a Josh Hendrickson and a Blake Townsend, and even a McGrath in there as a lefty specialist coming out of the pen. I mean, that's huge, right? That's a completely different starting rotation and bullpen. The Phillies guys are obviously pretty good on top of that. And then some position players. RG6 is coming back.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, the biggest off-season signing. And he'll slot nicely in that 3-hole for him, right? Just slot straight in there. Watched a few of his swings. He posted a little bit of a taste me video a couple of days ago on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that. Little low hand into the the hands were down. I was like, okay,
Looks like he's been working. He's been working. I think Desan. I'm not saying Desan was hitting with him that day, but I was chatting to Desan the other day, and he was they're trying to connect them because they're both in Kansas City together. So I'm sure they'll do some hitting over the next couple of weeks before he heads down. And then the two guys that I don't think will be coming back is Liam Spence and Nico Paco-Grego, who looks like might be going through a bit of a position change. Looks like they've got him behind the plate. So I think he's just going to be working out over there in the States and getting ready for spring training too, right? So, look, there's some big ins right there, and that can change the direction of their season when they add in those 4 to 5 guys. Now, are they going to be ready to hit the ground running? Or is it going to take them a little bit of time to build up their pitch counts? Who knows? Time will tell, right? But for me, I look at the Adelaide Giants and go, shit, they're going to look pretty good in that second half, and they're going to make a run for it. It's just whether or not they can stay close enough to that second spot to therefore run away with that second spot, which is kind of where I'm sitting with it. I think they will. And that's kind of the team that I see will challenge Sydney Blue Sox for the championship. Early call, round 4.
Are you taking off your pick to click? You're going away from Bennett's, Jimbo's boys, Benny's boys up in Brisbane.
But, you had a little bit of time to see what everyone's got and see what the pitching stuff, and championships are all based around pitching. I don't care what anyone says. It's all about
big
pitching.
Offense guy. Come on,
I am. But if anyone knows me, you know what I talk about as a coach. It's all about your pitching staff, right? And you've got that nailed.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Hughesy is off the Bandits. He is off the Bandits, back on the Adelaide Giants train. Sorry, Jimbo. I still love it, mate.
It's starting pitching, mate, and that's the thing for me. It all comes down to starting pitching. There's a reason why Sydney Blue Sox are running away with it right now. Yeah, right? I think Adelaide can, with those inclusions in January, I think they can challenge them for it because they're all Team Australia arms, right? So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to ask you though is more about if you were coaching a team, either Perth or Adelaide, right? Mm-hmm. What would you be looking to change? I know we've sort of briefly touched on it, but what would you be doing if you were, say, we talked about both of these teams really, and knowing that Adelaide, I guess, has their pieces coming back later, would you be happy with where you're at now? I guess sort of just outside that second spot, you're okay with it, right? Well, you are because you just said that you think they're going to be good. Mm. Let's move back over to Perth then, right? Mm-hmm. What would you be changing right now? You'd be going for the starting rotation. You'd be giving more guys an opportunity.
Well, they have to try something.
And are we going to see more imports after Christmas for like a Perth heat?
No chance. You won't see any more imports, I don't think, for the Perth heat for a couple of reasons. Probably the number one is financial. To fly a player out, put him up. Unfortunately, one of the guys that they've selected who hadn't pitched much in 2 years, got opportunity to come out in the ABL, and unfortunately, hasn't gone his way 4 starts into the season. So, it's probably something they've got to look at, moving him into the bullpen and see if they can get some innings out of him in the bullpen. This is where I think Warwick floats into the starting rotation and probably takes his spot. Tucker's pitching all right, I would say that, obviously he's going to continue to be your game 1, but I think Warwick needs a slot in there in that game 2 spot. And then game 3 and 4, Kizza has been pitching all right. I'm fine with him staying in the rotation for sure. Trying to work through and juggling around the rest of your bullpen is going to be quite difficult. Jai Hewitt's been a fantastic addition this season and he's pitched really well, right? So, he's been doing his thing, but it does make it a little bit shaky at the back end of games of who they're going to go to close out a game if they take Warwick out. But they haven't had the ability to get Warwick into the 9th inning with a lead for a little while. And I know he missed a series for Singy's wedding and stuff like that, but I think if you can get 6 innings out of him and a quality start's better off than getting one inning in the 7th or 8th when they're losing, or maybe potentially closing a game out. So I'd rather just see Wazza go 6 and then turn it over to the bullpen, which Bales came into it. They're kind of just mixing and matching, just trying to find a way through games at the moment. It looks like.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What would you be saying to the Perth Heat hitters?
Stay the course, man. They're good players. They're pro. There's, 7 professional hitters in that team. So, and an ex-pro, and they are missing hugely TK, right? I think it's quite glaringly obvious that, they miss his leadership he brings on field and in game. And I know he's still there and he doesn't miss a game. He's in the dugout. I'm sure he's talking to all the boys, but being able to just write his name in the lineup every game, and they're 100% missing him for sure. They're missing Bojo 100%. They are, right?
Is that not a bigger problem that we're relying on
TK?
A guy that might be a bit towards the end of his career?
Yeah, but that's what happens when you lose Bojo, right? Like Bojo was the guy that's sat in that heart of the order for the last 6-7 years, however long it's been. So you take that bat out. He's had great last couple of seasons for the Heat. So you take an offensive threat out. That's where it sits, right? And then you take TK out on top of that.
Yeah.
And it just makes it a lot harder, right? So this is where I'm like, shake it up, get Jess into the heart of order, hit him 5 or 6, stuff it, right? Like whatever.
Yeah.
Put someone else down there. Some guys can travel, some guys can't travel. I know Perry's probably just trying to mix and match and do the best he can do with the players that are available to him, but they're not getting anybody, right? There's no offensive guys coming into that team. Their imports are their imports for the rest of the season. So they're going to have to find a way to, and I know they're working hard, right? We all know that every player in the ABL works hard. Every professional player works hard. So let's hope they can turn it around and, string a few solid innings together, some back-to-back hits. And I know Hawley's shoulders are heavy at the moment. He's very passionate with it and just wants to win, right? So unfortunately,
they've lost his shoulders. They're huge.
Yeah, they are huge, right? And he just wants to feel the success and play and win baseball games. And I know he would probably be pretty upset with what happened over the weekend. But mate, it's all part of it. You all find yourself in this position at some stage of being down the bottom. It's how you turn it around now for the second or last 6 weeks of the season.
Let's go into, of course, what's going to happen this round. Let's have a quick look. It's, as we might have touched on it earlier in the podcast, but let's go through it officially. Perth are, of course, going to Sydney, and Adelaide is travelling up to Brisbane. So it's another deja vu round for everyone involved, except for we're going to swap the home series around. Who are you going for with your picks? Adelaide. Let's start with Adelaide. Adelaide at Brisbane.
Adelaide at Brisbane.
No 2-2 pushes, baby.
Brisbane did shake it up. Benny did shake it up a little bit with his starting rotation and moved a few pieces around, which I think was good. John Kennedy looks good out as a starter. I know he enjoyed having him at the back end of the games down in Canberra. I'm just kind of looking at some stats here. Harder. It's such a hard one because I do think it will be a split. If I had to go one way, I would say, Adelaide have the offensive numbers. I think Brisbane have struggled offensively, and I think that will turn. I think that will get better. I'm going to go Adelaide, but really looking forward to Brisbane when they finally get their offense going, because I still think they've got a pretty good offense. But I'm going to go Adelaide.
I think I've worked it out because we're not doing the 2-2 push. We're just going to ask who for series win, right? 2-2 push is a push. No one can back it anyways. If you get a 4-0 sweep, good on you. Congratulations. I'll give you an extra point. So you're going Adelaide for a series win? I'm gonna go Bandits at home.
Okay.
I think it's gonna get spicy. I think Hughesy picked him for a reason, and since you picked him, they started going terribly. Now that you're off them, not terribly. I shouldn't say that, but they weren't the world beaters we thought they were going to be. Now that you're off them, I'm going to jump on that train and watch them. I'm going to whip them home. So Hughesy goes Adelaide at Brisbane. I'm going to go Brisbane at Brisbane. Perth Heat going to Sydney. I would love nothing more to see Perth go out and win this series in Sydney. That would be wild. Here's a scenario for you, and this is just going to be my pick. You ready? I'm going to go first. Here's how the weekend's going to play out. I'm putting it out in the universe. Sydney's going to win game 1. Perth's going to get hot. Take the rest of them. 3-1 Perth Heat. Hey, give Sydney a new franchise record, 10-game win streak. Congratulations. The boys get fired up the next day. They go out there and they stick it up and for the rest of the weekend. That's what's going to happen.
No, Sydney going to win this series quite easily, and I'll tell you why. And I'll list these ERAs out. Alex Wells 1.52, Ben Ferreira 1.35, Jager Beck 2.81, Josh Bishop 2.79, Barassa 3.79, Kai Jackson 2.25, Cooper Vasilakis 2.25. Colin Wynn 5.4. That's not usual for him. He's better than that, and I'm sure he'll turn it around. You know what I mean? Guy hasn't given up a run yet this season. That's why they'll win, because their pitching staff is locked in, right? And you look at that, everyone's got a sub-3 basically. Everyone, you know what I mean? And that's why I wouldn't put it past them. And I don't want to say a full sweep, but yeah, they're looking the goods at the moment.
Usually goes Sydney comprehensively. Let's say that much. I am going to stick with Perth, though. Come on, let's get it done. Hey, that's all we got time for. That's all we got time for this episode. We appreciate you guys for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you go and check out the Instagram at Bloop Blast Podcast. Of course, this is dropping a couple of days earlier. Get it in there for you, give you something to listen to through the midweek, get through your working week. And of course, towards the end of the week, you can check us out on at State League Show. It's on Instagram. That's a little Friday drop. And of course, over at the YouTube channel at Bloop Blast Podcast on YouTube, we have, we've got both shows coming out on the same feed there. So we appreciate you guys so much. Anything else from you, Hughesy? Did you want to go one final thought? Also, your lack of stash looks it's weird now. It's a very fresh lip. Did you shave like just before this episode?
No,
lean in for us. Show us. Come on, man. That's baby soft. Baby soft.
I did enjoy growing it, but I took great pleasure shaving it off just before Singy's wedding. And yeah, I'm back. Same guy.
There you go. Same guy. Hey, we appreciate you guys so much for listening. And there is only one way to sign off this show. And you know what it is.
Adios, muchachos.
I was having too much fun with that button last week when you weren't here. So I'll just play it one more time for everyone. Take care. Have fun. Be good to each other. See you later.
Adios, muchachos.
It's an old baseball saying, a bloop and a blast.
Bloop and a blast. Bloop and a blast. Big sexy Luke Hughes.
Going back. This ball